My husband didn't end the call, and I overheard him tell my pregnant best friend, once her father's check clears, we'll take the baby and leave her penniless. My car's Bluetooth was supposed to make my life easier, a small luxury in the chaos of Seattle traffic. But one rainy Tuesday, it didn't just connect me to a call, it connected me to the absolute destruction of my entire world. Richard, my husband of 15 years, picked up with that all-too-familiar breathless rush. The one he used when he was deep in a crucial business negotiation. He mumbled an "I love you," said he was wrapping up, and then he thought he hung up. But he didn't. The line stayed open. The silence on the line was just a heartbeat long. Then the static cleared, and his voice came booming through my car speakers. Not the warm, gentle voice he used with me, but something colder, more arrogant. "God, she is so suffocating," he sneered. The sound was so crisp, so close, it felt like he was right there in the passenger seat next to me, spitting those words. My hands clenched, knuckles white on the steering wheel. The call timer was still ticking, mocking me. I almost screamed his name, almost yelled, "Richard, I'm still here." But then, a woman's voice cut him off. A voice I knew intimately, a voice more familiar than my own sister's. "You better not," she purred, a throaty, familiar laugh. I don't want my son confused about who his real family is. Monica. It was Monica. My best friend. The woman who drank herbal tea at my kitchen island every Sunday. The woman I'd known since college. I didn't scream. I didn't breathe. I just merged into the slow lane, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Laura is clueless. She lives in that fairy tale world her daddy built for her. She thinks I'm grinding away at the office to build our future. His words were a punch to the gut. But Monica was just as chilling. "I'm tired of waiting, Richard. Look at me. I'm 6 months pregnant. I can't keep hiding inside those hideous, oversized sweaters Laura buys me. It's humiliating pretending this baby is some accident from a guy who ran off." And then Richard, with a voice so cold it could shatter glass, laid out their entire plan. "Just wait until her father's check clears. The trust fund distribution is next month. 5 million, Monica. That's our ticket. Once that money hits our joint account, I transfer it to the offshore shell, serve her the divorce papers, and we are gone. We'll take the baby and leave her with nothing but her empty house and her dried-up womb." My blood ran cold. Dried-up womb, he knew. He knew how many agonizing rounds of IVF, how many miscarriages I'd cried over, blaming myself. And he just weaponized it. "She's too old to give me a son anyway." He twisted the knife deeper. "She's barren, Monica. You're giving me the legacy she never could." Then came a sound that nearly sent my car careening off the bridge. Asterisk whoosh. 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 Asterisk a rhythmic, terrifying sound. "Listen to that," Monica cooed. "That's your son's heartbeat. Strong, unlike hers." They were at the OB/GYN appointment. The one Monica had tearfully told me she was going to alone, scared and lonely, because the father had abandoned her. She'd even asked me for money for the copay just yesterday. My body shook so violently the car swerved, earning a blaring honk from a passing semi-truck. I managed to pull over onto the wet shoulder, my hazard lights blinking uselessly in the gloom. I sat there, paralyzed, a silent scream trapped in my throat as my husband and my best friend kissed. I heard the wet smacking sound, the murmurs of affection I hadn't received in years. "I love you," Richard whispered to her. "We just have to play the game a little longer. Use her money to pay for the birth. Let her buy the crib. Let her set up the nursery. And then we vanish." My blood ran cold again. They weren't just having an affair. They were orchestrating a hostile takeover of my entire life. They were going to mock my deepest pain, my infertility, and then let me buy a nursery for the baby they planned to steal away from me. I stared at my phone. A text from Richard popped up. "Sorry, honey. Meeting ran late. Picking up dinner. Love you." Right below it, one from Monica. "Hey, Auntie Laura. Baby is kicking so much today. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." That's when the scream ripped through me. A primal, guttural sound of pure agony that tore from my throat. But as it faded, something else settled in my chest. Not sadness. Not even pure rage. It was a cold, hard block of ice. They thought I was the clueless, barren wife. A walking ATM. I wiped my face, looked into the rearview mirror. My eyes were red, yes, but they were sharp. They were focused. Okay, I whispered to the empty, rain-streaked car. You want to play a game? Let's play. This was just the beginning, a shocking reveal that set the stage for everything that followed. If you're still with me, if you're gripping your seat, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. You don't want to miss how I turn this betrayal into their worst nightmare. More unbelievable stories are coming. I leaned my head back, closing my eyes, and the memories flooded back, not warm nostalgia, but sharp, jagged shards of glass. I remembered meeting Richard 7 years ago. He was charming, handsome, but utterly broken, literally and financially. He'd just declared bankruptcy. I was the one who paid off his credit card debt. I was the one who introduced him to my father, Arthur, a man who built an empire. Dad had warned me, he has shifting eyes, Laura. He looks at your purse, not your face. But I was 35, hearing that biological clock tick like a time bomb. I wanted love. I wanted a family. I defended him. I paid for our wedding. I bought our house. I put him on the deed because I wanted us to be equals. Equals. I laughed bitterly to myself in the dark. We were never equals. I was the host. He was the parasite. But Monica, her betrayal cut deeper, 1,000 times sharper. You expect men to be stupid sometimes. But your best friend? Monica was 10 years younger than me. And in turn, I'd mentored at the charity foundation. She'd once cried to me about her mother needing surgery, unable to afford it. I wrote a personal check for $15,000. Never asked for it back. When she was evicted, I let her stay rent-free in my guest house for 6 months. When she tearfully confided she was pregnant by a one-night stand who'd blocked her number, I was the one who held her, who wiped her tears. Just last week, I took her shopping. At a high-end baby boutique, she picked out a ridiculously expensive, hand-carved oak crib. It's too much, Laura, she'd said, with those wide, innocent doe eyes. I can't afford this nonsense. I just smiled, handing my credit card to the cashier. Nonsense, I'd said. I'm going to be the honorary auntie. I want this baby to have the best. Richard was there, too, watching us. I'd thought his expression was sweet, affectionate. Now I knew. He wasn't looking at the crib for my generosity. He was looking at it for his son. They were shopping for their family, with my money right in front of my face. They must have laughed about it later, in bed. Asterisk, look at how stupid she is. She's buying furniture for the baby that will replace her. Asterisk, the realization made bile rise in my throat. Every kindness I had shown them was now a weapon they used against me. My infertility, my greatest sorrow, was their punchline. I took a deep breath, forcing air into lungs that felt too tight. I had to go home. I had to walk into that house, look my husband in the eye, and somehow not claw his face off. I had to become the Laura they thought they knew, sweet, oblivious, naive Laura. But the woman sitting in that car on the side of I-5 was dead. The woman who turned the key in the ignition was someone else entirely. She was the daughter of Arthur Reynolds, a man who chewed up competitors for breakfast. The rain was letting up, leaving the city lights smeared across the wet asphalt like spilled oil. I was driving home to a crime scene. But this time, I wasn't going to be the victim. I was going to be the detective, the judge, and the executioner. I unlocked the front door, and the smell hit me instantly. Garlic, rosemary, searing steak. Richard was cooking. This was his routine. His guilty routine. Whenever he felt bad or was about to ask for a massive sum of money, he played the Michelin star chef. Honey, is that you? His voice drifted from the kitchen, warm and inviting. The voice I used to fall asleep to. Now it sounded like the hiss of a snake. I'm home, I called back, aiming for cheerful, landing somewhere near exhausted. I could play the tired wife card. He came into the hallway, wiping his hands, looking handsome in the cashmere sweater I'd bought him. Damn him, he looked so handsome. He wrapped his arms around my waist, and it took every fiber of my being not to flinch. You're late, he murmured, kissing my forehead. I was getting worried. How's your mom? She's fine, I lied. Just talkative. You know how she gets about her garden. He pulled back slightly, looking into my eyes. For a second, panic flared. Asterisk, does he know? Can he see it? Asterisk, you look pale, Laura. Are you okay? Just a migraine, I lied. Traffic was a nightmare. The lights were blurring. Poor thing, he cooed. He kissed my cheek, and that's when I smelled it. Beneath the garlic and his expensive cologne, a faint, lingering note of vanilla and coconut. Monica's cheap drugstore body spray. He hadn't even bothered to shower. He was so arrogant, so utterly sure of my blindness, that he walked into our home carrying the scent of his mistress on his skin. I pulled away gently. I think I need to lie down for a bit. The smell of the food, it's a little strong for my head right now. Of course, he said, the picture of concern. Go rest. I'll keep your dinner warm. Do you want some aspirin? No, just sleep, I said. I walked up the stairs, feeling his eyes on my back, my legs like lead. I entered our bedroom, the room where we had tried to conceive for 5 years, and locked the door. I walked straight to the bathroom and dry-heaved over the sink. Nothing came up, just bitter bile. I turned on the faucet to mask any noise, splashed cold water on my face, watching the droplets run down like tears I refused to shed. I needed to know more. The phone call was a smoking gun, but in a divorce involving millions, especially inherited wealth, I needed a nuclear arsenal. I needed to know exactly where he was planning to move the money. He'd mentioned an offshore shell. Richard's iPad was on the nightstand, charging. He usually took it everywhere. My heart rate spiked. I knew his passcode, his birthday. Narcissist. I unplugged it, sat on the edge of the bed, straining to hear footsteps. He deleted his messages with Monica, but he hadn't cleared his browser history. I clicked Safari. My fingers trembled as I scrolled. Non-extradition countries. Real estate in Belize. How to hide assets in a trust divorce. Paternity test accuracy timeline. And then, the most chilling search of all, time-stamped 3 days ago, average life expectancy of women with high blood pressure. I froze. I didn't have high blood pressure, but my mother did. Was he planning to wait for my parents to die? Or was he hoping the stress of divorcing me would kill me? I heard the heavy thud of a footstep on the stairs. I quickly locked the iPad, plugged it back in, and dove under the duvet, feigning sleep, my breathing shallow and even. The doorknob turned. Laura, he whispered. I didn't move. He stood there for a moment, a dark shadow. Then I heard the soft ping of a notification from the iPad. He walked over, picked it up, and I heard the tapping of his fingers. Sleep tight, cash cow, he whispered, so low I almost didn't hear it. He closed the door. I opened my eyes in the darkness. He thought I was sleeping. He thought I was the cash cow. But he forgot that cows have horns, and when they are cornered, they stampede. My parents' estate was an hour away, a sprawling waterfront property Richard had always coveted. One day this will be ours, he used to say. Now I knew he meant it as a conquest. I sat in my father's study, surrounded by books and the smell of old paper. My mother, Catherine, gripped my hand, silent since I'd played the recording and shown them the documents. My father, Arthur, stood by the window, 70 years old, but still with the posture of a general. Involuntary commitment, he repeated, the words like ash. He was going to try to declare you insane. To get control of the assets if the divorce got messy, I affirmed. He knew the prenup protected the principal, but not the income. If he controlled the accounts, I should kill him, my father said simply, turning, his eyes cold. I have friends, Laura. He could just disappear. No, I said, that's too easy. And I don't want you going to jail for a worm like him. I want him to suffer. I want him to think he's won the lottery and then realize the ticket is fake. I want him to be humiliated. And I want Monica to realize she bet on a losing horse. My mother finally spoke. The trust distribution. That's what they're waiting for. The 5 million. Yes, I nodded. Next month. We stop it, my father said. I'll call the lawyers. Freeze everything. If we freeze it now, he'll know, I argued. He'll panic. He'll hide the assets he's already stolen. He'll spin the narrative that I'm the crazy one. I need to catch him in the act of trying to steal the big pot. My father sat at his desk, steepling his fingers. So, you want to trap him? I want to dangle the carrot, I said. I want to make the carrot bigger. 5 million is good. But 10 million? 10 million makes people sloppy. My father smiled, a slow, predatory grin I recognized from his business negotiations. You want me to restructure the trust, or at least pretend to? Exactly, I said. Tell him you're so impressed with his vision that you want to move the assets early. But to avoid taxes, we need to move it into a joint investment vehicle, something he has to sign for. A liability trap. We set up a shell company, my father mused. Make it look like an investment fund. We transfer assets into it, but actually, we transfer debt, or make him sign a personal guarantee for a loan to buy into the fund. Make him sign a personal guarantee for a $10 million credit line, I suggested. Tell him it's to leverage the investment. He'll sign anything if he thinks he gets access to the cash. And once he signs that guarantee, my father continued, we call the loan. He'll be personally liable for $10 million he doesn't have. He'll be bankrupt, I said. And this time, I won't be there to bail him out. My mother squeezed my hand. And the girl, Monica? She wants a baby shower, I said, my voice hardening. I'm going to give her one. That's where we dropped the hammer. I want the papers served there. The revelation to happen there. My mother nodded. I'll handle the catering. We'll make sure it's an event to remember. Project Green Inheritance was born. When I left my parents' house that evening, I felt lighter than I had in years. The victim was gone. The architect of their destruction was driving the car. I texted Richard. Great meeting with Dad. He wants to talk to you about a massive opportunity. Hurry home. The 3 dots of his reply appeared instantly. Asterisk on my way. Love you, asterisk love me. Right. He loved the smell of money. And he was about to catch a whiff of the biggest meal he'd ever choke on. That evening, I set the stage. Vintage Cabernet. Candles. The jazz he pretended to understand. When he walked in, he looked flushed, probably doing 90 miles per hour after my text. Laura, what's all this celebration? He called out. I talked to Dad today, I said, handing him a glass of wine, wearing my best silk robe. Really talked to him. About us. About your potential. Richard's eyes widened. And he agrees with me, I said, leading him to the sofa. He thinks he's been too hard on you. He thinks you're ready for the next level. I took a deep breath. Dad wants to liquidate the Blue Water Trust. The one with the 5 million. Richard tried to look calm, but I saw the pulse jumping in his neck. And distribute it to you? No, I said. He wants to double it. Combine it with his personal liquidity fund. 10 million, Richard. And he wants to transfer it into a new management LLC. With you as the managing partner. Richard stopped breathing. 10 million. Control. Power. It was everything he'd ever wanted. Managing partner, he choked out. Me? Yes. I beamed. He says he's too old to micromanage these aggressive funds. He needs young blood. He wants to set it up next week. I paused, feigning worry. But what? Richard leaned forward, his hunger palpable. He needs you to sign some heavy paperwork. Since you'd be the managing partner, you'd have to sign the liability waivers and capital guarantees. Standard stuff, Dad says. Just to keep the IRS off our backs, but it puts you legally in charge. I can handle it, he declared, not even asking what a capital guarantee was. He just heard legally in charge. I've handled complex deals before, Laura. You know that. I know, I said, touching his cheek. You're the smartest man I know. We're going to be so rich, Richard. We can finally buy that villa in Tuscany. We can do anything. He grabbed me, kissed me. Passionate. Fervent. But not for me. For the 10 million. I kissed him back, thinking how much I would enjoy watching him sign his life away. I need to make a call, he said, pulling away abruptly. Just checking on a client. Go ahead, darling, I smiled. He practically ran into the hallway. I stayed on the sofa, quietly picking up the baby monitor receiver I'd hidden under a stack of magazines. I'd placed the transmitter in the hallway planter earlier. I put the receiver to my ear. Monica, listen to me. Richard's voice was a frantic whisper. It's 10 million. 10. Double the payout. Monica must have been screaming on the other end. I know you want to leave now, Richard hissed. But can you imagine the difference between 5 and 10? We can live like royalty. We never have to work again. Just hold on. 2 more weeks. The paperwork gets signed next week. Once the funds hit the LLC, I wire it out and we are ghosts." He hung up. I set the receiver down. My hands were steady. He was going to wire the funds out. He thought he was going to empty the account. He didn't know the account would be a restricted escrow. The wire transfer would trigger the immediate enforcement of the personal guarantee. He was going to attempt grand larceny, and in doing so, he would trigger a debt that would bury him. He walked back into the living room, a smile plastered on his face. "All sorted," he said. "My schedule is clear. I'm all yours." "To us," I said, raising my glass. "To us," he replied, clinking his glass against mine. "To me," I thought, "and to the hell I'm about to rain down on you." The week leading up to the signing was a masterclass in psychological torture. Richard was on his best behavior, playing the doting husband so intensely, it was nauseating. But Monica? Monica was cracking. I invited them both to dinner at a high-end seafood restaurant. A pre-celebration for the big deal. I wanted them in the same room. I wanted to see the tension. Monica arrived in a tight dress, her bump accentuated, looking tired, her ankles swollen. Richard, meanwhile, was glowing, wearing a new suit, undoubtedly bought with my money. "You look exhausted, Mon," I said as we sat down. "Doesn't she, Richard?" Richard barely glanced at her, too engrossed in the wine list. "She looks fine." "So, Laura, did your dad mention the notary date?" "Tuesday," I said. "But let's not talk business yet. Let's talk about the baby, Monica. You must be so excited." Monica glared at Richard. "I am, but it's hard doing it alone, you know? Without a partner to help with the heavy lifting." A direct shot at Richard. "Well, you have us," I said, patting her hand. "Richard's been so helpful, haven't you, honey? He's been looking at nursery themes with me." Richard froze. He hadn't been looking at nursery themes with me. I was lying, but he couldn't deny it without looking like a bad husband in front of the money source. And he couldn't agree without pissing off Monica. "I just glanced at a few," Richard stammered. "She wants a jungle theme." "Which is funny," I told Monica, "because I remember you saying you wanted a jungle theme for your baby. Isn't that a coincidence?" Monica's fork clattered onto her plate. She turned to Richard, eyes blazing. "You're looking at nursery themes for her guest room?" "It's just talk," Richard said quickly, sweating. "Laura, let's order." "The lobster looks amazing." "I want the lobster," Monica said petulantly. "And the caviar." "Get whatever you want," I said. "It's on me." Throughout dinner, I kept the spotlight on Richard's success, on how much I relied on him. I talked about our planned second honeymoon to the Maldives next month. "The Maldives?" Monica interrupted. "I thought you couldn't fly because of your blood pressure." I looked at her, feigning confusion. "My blood pressure is perfect." "Why would you think that?" Monica looked at Richard. Richard looked at his plate. He'd obviously told her the lie about my health to keep her hopeful-eyed Daisoon. "Oh," Monica mumbled, "I must have misunderstood." "Richard is taking me to the Maldives," I continued, twisting the knife. "It's going to be so romantic. Just the two of us reconnecting." I saw Monica reach under the table. A second later, Richard flinched, kicking his leg. She'd kicked him. "Actually," Richard said, his voice high and tight, "maybe we should wait on the trip, Laura. With a new business, I'll be very busy." "Nonsense," I said. "We need to celebrate." "Unless, is there a reason you can't go?" "No," Richard said, miserably. "No reason." Monica suddenly stood up. "I need to go to the bathroom." She stormed off. "You should go check on her, Richard," I said innocently. "She seems hormonal." "You're so good with people." I should stay here with you," he said, terrified to leave me alone, terrified I'd suspect something. He was prioritizing the money over his pregnant mistress. I watched him make that choice. "Don't be silly," I said. "Go. I'll order dessert." He hesitated, then got up. I waited 5 seconds, then followed. I didn't go into the bathroom. I stood in the corridor, near a quiet alcove. I heard hushed, angry whispering coming from near the emergency exit. "You are humiliating me," Monica hissed. "Talking about honeymoons, jungle themes. You're playing house with her while I'm carrying your kid. Keep your voice down." Richard snapped. Do you want to blow this? It's 10 million, Monica. For 10 million, I will dance a jig in a tutu if she asks me to. Just shut up and eat your lobster. In 2 weeks, she's history. I hate her, Monica sobbed. I hate her so much. She sits there so smug, throwing her money around. She's a fool, Richard said. She's a pathetic, lonely fool, and we are going to bleed her dry. Now wipe your face and get back out there. We are almost at the finish line. I stepped back into the shadows. He was right. We were almost at the finish line. But he didn't realize the finish line was actually the edge of a cliff, and I was the one who had greased it. I went back to the table and sat down. When they returned, I was smiling. I ordered the chocolate lava cake, I said. It's going to be explosive. The dinner with Richard and Monica confirmed their greed, but greed isn't a crime. Adultery, though? In our state, under our ironclad prenup, it was a breach of contract that could strip Richard of any claim to spousal support. But a phone recording could be argued away. I needed more. I needed biological proof. I needed to tie Richard to that baby with a knot so tight even Houdini couldn't slip out of it. I needed his DNA. And Monica's. Richard was easy. I pulled hairs from his hairbrush every morning out of habit. Monica was the challenge. 2 days after dinner, I texted her, "Hey, I found some incredible vintage maternity clothes in the attic. Chanel, Dior. Want me to drop them by?" The trap was baited with vanity. Monica couldn't resist high-end labels. OMG, yes. I'm at the apartment. Come over, she texted back. The apartment. The bachelorette pad she claimed she was renting with her savings. In reality, a $3,500 a month condo Richard paid for using funds siphoned from my retirement account. I drove over with a garment bag full of thrift store clothes, dry cleaned to look expensive. When she opened the door, the smell hit me, his cologne. His shoes by the door. A second home. A shadow life lived under my nose. Laura, she squealed, her eyes immediately darting to the garment bag. You're a lifesaver. Nothing fits me anymore. Happy to help, I smiled, stepping inside. Can I use your restroom? That coffee went right through me. Sure, down the hall, she said, already unzipping the bag. I walked into the bathroom. It was masterfully cluttered. And there, in a ceramic cup by the sink, 2 toothbrushes, one pink, one blue. I pulled a Ziploc bag from my purse. I grabbed the blue toothbrush, Richard's. I knew the brand. Then a hairbrush full of long, blonde strands. Monica's. But I needed something directly linking this pregnancy to him. A toothbrush proves he sleeps here, not that he's the father. I checked the small trash can. Mostly tissues. I dug a little deeper, ignoring the revulsion. And there it was, a crumpled piece of thermal paper. I smoothed it out. A receipt from the OB/GYN clinic, 3 days ago. Emerald City Obstetrics. Patient, Monica Stevens. Guarantor/responsible party, Richard Vance. Service, 24-week ultrasound. He had signed for it. He had literally put his name on the financial responsibility form for the ultrasound. He was so arrogant, so sure I would never see this, that he didn't even use cash. Everything okay in there? Monica called out. Just washing my hands, I chirped, flushing the toilet for effect, and walked out. Monica was holding up a silk blouse. This is gorgeous, she said. Is it real vintage? It is, I lied. It looks perfect on you. Wear it to the party. I will, she beamed. By the way, Richard said the business deal is happening Tuesday. He seems stressed, but excited. He is, I said, walking to the door. He's about to become a very powerful man, Monica. We should all be ready for changes. I'm ready, she said, rubbing her belly. I was born ready. I drove straight to the private lab my lawyer, Sterling, had recommended. I handed over the Ziploc bags and the receipt. I need a rush on this, I told the technician. A paternity profile and a comparative analysis. I need to know the DNA on this toothbrush matches the DNA of the father, and I need it to match the husband. We can have a preliminary match in 48 hours, the technician said. But for court admissible, I don't need it for court yet, I interrupted. I need it for a video presentation. He looked confused, but took my credit card. Driving home, I felt a strange calm. The pieces were locking into place. The financial trap was set. The social trap was set. And now, the biological trap. Richard came home that night whistling. He kissed my cheek. "Big day tomorrow with your dad," he said. "I've been reviewing the prospectus." "You're going to do great," I said, stroking his lapel. "Just make sure you sign everything." Dad hates hesitation. "I won't hesitate," Richard promised. He had no idea. He was about to sign his own death warrant, and he was whistling while he did it. Tuesday morning arrived with a gray, ominous sky, the kind of Seattle weather Richard usually complained about. But today, he was electric. He spent an hour adjusting his tie, checking his teeth. He looked like a man preparing to accept an Oscar. "Do I look like a managing partner?" he asked. "You look like a $10 million man," I said. It wasn't a lie. That was the exact amount of debt he was about to incur. We drove to my father's office, the steel and glass monolith Richard always stared up at with envy. Today, he walked in like he owned it. My father, Arthur, was waiting in the boardroom, Sterling, our lawyer, beside him. "Richard," my father said, standing but not offering a hand. "Good to see you." "Arthur," Richard nodded, trying to match my father's gravitas. "Ready to get to work." "Excellent. Let's not waste time." My father slid a stack of thick, blue-bound documents across the polished mahogany. As Laura explained, my father began, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. "We're consolidating the Blue Water assets into a new entity, Vance Reynolds Capital, to avoid gift tax and inheritance delays. We're structuring this as a leveraged buy-in." Richard nodded sagely, but I could tell he didn't understand half of it. He just heard Vance Reynolds Capital, his name. "You will be the sole managing director," Sterling piped up, "giving you unrestricted trading authority. However, to satisfy SEC and banking covenants, the director must personally guarantee the leverage line. It's a formality. The assets cover the loan 10 times over." "Of course," Richard said, reaching for the silver pen. "Standard procedure." "Read it carefully, Richard," I said softly, feigning concern. "It's a big commitment." He shot me a look that said, "Shut up. Let me handle this." "I know what I'm doing, Laura." He flipped to the signature page. He didn't read the clause on page 42 about the 5-year lockup. He didn't read the clause on page 50, stating the leverage line was callable immediately upon any evidence of marital infidelity or misappropriation of funds. And he certainly didn't read the fine print that made the personal guarantee absolute, piercing the corporate veil, meaning they could come after his car, his clothes, and any future earnings. He signed his name with a flourish. "Richard Vance." "Done," he said, capping the pen. My father watched him, his face unreadable. "Welcome to the deep end of the pool, Richard." "When do the funds hit?" Richard asked, his hands trembling slightly. "The account is active as of now," Sterling said. "You have trading power." Richard let out a breath he must have been holding for years. He looked at me, and for a second, I saw the mask slip. It wasn't love in his eyes. It was pure triumph. He thought he had just stolen my family's legacy. "We should celebrate," Richard said. "Dinner, champagne." "I have a better idea," I said. "Let's save the big celebration for the baby shower on Saturday. It'll be a double celebration. New life, new business, right?" Richard, already mentally spending the money, was distracted. "The baby shower?" "Sure." He stood up, shook my father's hand vigorously, and practically danced out of the room. When the door clicked shut, the silence was heavy. "He didn't even ask about the interest rate," my father mused. "He's a fool, Dad," I said, staring at the door. "A greedy, desperate fool." "He's legally hooked," Sterling confirmed. "As soon as you file for divorce and we prove the adultery, the bad boy clause in this contract triggers. We call the loan. He owes the holding company $10 million immediately. He'll be bankrupt by lunchtime." "And the funds he thinks he has access to?" I asked. "Restricted escrow," Sterling smiled, a shark-like expression. "He can see the money on a screen, but he can't move a cent without a countersignature, which he won't get." I walked to the window and looked down. I saw Richard walking out of the building. He pulled out his phone, made a call. Even from 20 stories up, I knew who he was calling. Monica. He was telling her they were rich. Enjoy it. Richard, I whispered against the glass. You have exactly 4 days to feel like a king. Monica Stevens' audacity knew no bounds. Once she thought Richard had secured the 10 million, her demands spiraled. She didn't just want a party, she wanted a coronation. I want gold, she told me over coffee, showing me her Pinterest board. Gold balloons, gold tablecloths, gold dust on the cupcakes. I want to look like royalty. Gold it is, I said, writing it down. Gold, like the money you think you're stealing, and the cake, she continued. I want a 3-tier cake. And for the reveal? No basic balloon pop. I want a video. A montage of my journey, ending with the color reveal on a big screen. She was practically handing me the weapon. A video on a big screen? I repeated slowly. That is a brilliant idea, Monica. I can put that together for you. I have all those photos from our trips and the ones you sent me of the ultrasounds. Yes, she clapped her hands. Use the ultrasound pics. Put some emotional music behind it, like 8,000 years. I'll make sure it's very emotional, I promised. She wanted the party at my house, of course. To parade her fertility in the home of the barren woman she was betraying. To stand in my living room, surrounded by my friends, eating my food, secretly laughing at me. Are you sure you're okay with this, Laura? She asked, with a fake pout. I know, the baby stuff is hard for you. I'm over it, I said, sipping my tea. Really? I'm just happy for you and for the father, whoever he is. Monica smirked. Oh, he'll be happy. Trust me. Saturday arrived. The gender reveal day. My house was transformed into a glittering palace of deception. Gold streamers hung from chandeliers. A catering team, paid for by me, set up a buffet of lobster sliders and truffle fries. Richard paced the hallway, nervous. Is this too much? He asked. People might talk. Why are we doing this for your assistant? She's my best friend, Richard, I said, fixing his tie. And besides, we're celebrating us, too. Remember the deal? We can announce it to everyone tonight. He relaxed slightly. The deal. Guests started arriving. A mix of Richard's business associates, my family, all in on the plan, and Monica's friends, who looked at me with pity. Monica arrived in a white limousine, wearing a gold sequined gown that hugged her bump. She looked like she was arriving at the Met Gala. Welcome to the party, she shouted, waving. She walked straight to Richard, a hug that lasted 3 seconds too long. I watched from the balcony. The way she looked at him, not just love, but ownership. She thought she owned him now. She thought she owned this house. This life. My mother came up beside me, wearing black, like she was attending a funeral. In a way, she was. Are you ready? Mom asked. I've been ready for a lifetime, I said. The servers set up. Projectors focused. Dad has the security team on standby in the garage, Mom whispered. Good. I looked down at the crowd. Monica was holding court by the chocolate fountain, laughing loudly. Richard, scotch in hand, looked smugly at my father's business partners, probably bragging about his new managing director title. They were so high up. The fall was going to be breathtaking. Laura. Monica waved. Come down. It's time for the video. I smiled and waved back. Coming. I walked into my bedroom, opened the safe. The USB drive was there. MonicaJourney.mp4. But I had edited it. Oh, I had edited it beautifully. I looked at my reflection. I wasn't the sad, infertile wife anymore. I was the karma they didn't believe in. I walked down the grand staircase, the USB drive warm in my hand. The crowd parted. I felt like a gladiator entering the arena. All right, everyone, I announced, grabbing the microphone. Gather round. Monica has been dreaming of this moment for months. She wants to show you all the truth about this miracle baby. Monica beamed, clutching Richard's arm. Richard looked uncomfortable, but forced a smile. I plugged the USB into the laptop, connected to the massive screen. Lights, please. I called out. The room went dark. The silence was heavy, filled with the hushed anticipation of 50 guests. I stood by the projector, the hum vibrating against my fingertips. I saw Monica, front and center, hands cradling her belly, eyes rapt. She expected a sappy ballad, ultrasound photos, blue or pink confetti. She expected to be the star. I saw Richard, swirling ice in his glass, trying to look casual. He had no idea his phone, secure in his pocket, had been cloned. I saw my father, Arthur, by the patio doors, staring at Richard with the cold, dead eyes of a sniper. Beside him, two men in dark suits, security masquerading as caterers. And then, there was me. My heart hammered like a trapped bird, but my hands were steady. This was it. No going back. Once I pressed play, I'd be a divorcee. The woman who nuked her own life to kill the cancer growing inside it. But looking at them, the husband who called me barren, the best friend who stole my money to buy maternity clothes, I felt no fear. Only a righteous, burning clarity. I gripped the remote, thumb hovering. Time slowed. I heard individual breaths. The clinking of ice. I thought about the nursery I never got to decorate. The nights I spent injecting hormones while Richard was working late with Monica. The 10 million Richard thought he controlled. This is for you, Laura, I whispered to myself. The Laura who deserved better. I looked directly at Richard. Our eyes locked in the dim light. He frowned. He saw something in my face. Not adoration. A shark-like flatness. His smile faltered. He took a half step forward, his mouth opening. Laura, he mouthed. Too late. I pressed the button. The screen flared to life, casting a harsh white light over Richard's suddenly terrified face. The silence was about to be shattered forever. My friends, my heart is racing just retelling this moment. If you are listening to this and you are rooting for me, if you want to see these traitors get exactly what they deserve, please take a second right now to hit that like button and in the comments, type the number 1, just the number 1. Let me know you are standing with me in this living room holding the line. Your support fuels me. Type 1 now and let's watch their world burn together. The video didn't start with music. It started with static. Then, white text on a black background, October 14th, 5:42 p.m. The audio crackled to life. It was the recording from my car. God, she is so suffocating. I almost slipped up and called her by her name. Richard's voice boomed through the living room, amplified by the expensive surround sound he had insisted we install. In the crowd, heads turned, confused. They thought it was a joke. A skit. But Richard froze. His glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor with the sharp crack of a gunshot. You better not. I don't want my son confused about who his real family is. Monica's voice. On screen, the static cut to a grainy video clip, taken with a long-distance lens, but undeniable. Richard and Monica on a park bench. Richard was kissing her stomach. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. Monica let out a strangled, high-pitched no. She looked at the projector, her face pale as death under the heavy makeup. The audio continued, relentless. Just wait until her father's check clears. 5 million, Monica. That's our ticket. We'll take the baby and leave her with nothing but her empty house and her dried-up womb. She's too old to give me a son anyway. She's barren. The room erupted. My mother's friends covered their mouths. Richard's business partners looked at him with absolute disgust. But I wasn't done. The video cut to a new image. A document. The PDF of the involuntary commitment petition Richard had drafted. The words mentally incompetent, highlighted in red, zoomed in for all to read. Then, the coup de grace. The screen flashed to the DNA results. Paternity test result. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Father, Richard Vance. And finally, a slide I had made myself. A simple photo of the Project Green contract Richard had signed 2 days ago, his signature blown up next to the clause. Personal liability, $10 million. The video ended. The screen went black for 3 agonizing seconds. Absolute silence. Then, chaos. You bastard! Monica screamed. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Richard. You said she didn't know. You said it was safe. Richard was shaking, his face a mask of terror. He looked at the crowd, then at me. He tried to laugh, a manic, broken sound. This is a deep fake. It's AI. Laura is sick. She's save it, Richard, I said into the microphone, my voice calm, booming over the whispers. The police are on their way. And so are your creditors. Creditors? Richard stammered, sweating profusely. What creditors? My father stepped out from the shadows. Me, he said. You signed a personal guarantee for $10 million on Tuesday, Richard. And since you just admitted to conspiracy to commit fraud and theft on tape, I am calling the loan right now. Richard looked at my father, then at the contract flashing in his mind. The color drained from his face. He realized the trap. No, he whispered. No, that was for the trust. There is no trust, I said, walking down the stairs. There never was. You signed a debt, Richard. You owe my family $10 million. And since we have a prenup that denies you everything in the event of adultery, you have no way to pay it. Monica grabbed Richard's arm, nails digging into his suit. What does she mean? Where is the money? We need the money for the baby. Richard shoved her away hard. She stumbled back, almost falling into the dessert table. Get off me! Richard roared, losing all control. You stupid cow! You couldn't keep your mouth shut. You ruined everything. The crowd gasped again. This was the man who played the gentleman. Now he was a cornered rat, attacking the pregnant woman he claimed to love. Get out, I commanded, pointing to the door. Both of you. Get out of my house. Laura, please. Richard turned to me, eyes wild, switching tactics. He fell to his knees amidst the gold confetti. Laura, baby, listen. She trapped me. She seduced me. It was a mistake. I love you. I was just saying those things to keep her quiet until I could get rid of her. It was pathetic. Revolting. You just tried to claim I was insane to steal my money, Richard, I said, looking down at him with pure contempt. You aren't a victim. You're a parasite. I nodded to the security guards. Take the trash out, I said. The walk of shame was excruciatingly long. Richard tried to struggle, shouting about his rights, his lawyer. Call your lawyer, my father boomed after him. He's already seen mine on Monday. As they were dragged toward the front door, the guests parted like the Red Sea. No one offered sympathy. Even Monica's friends were filming on their phones, live-streaming the downfall of the woman who'd bragged about her rich baby daddy for months. At the door, Richard grabbed the frame, desperate. He looked back at me, tears streaming. Laura, think about what you're doing. We have 15 years. You can't just throw me away. You threw us away the moment you decided my womb wasn't good enough, I said. Goodbye, Richard. The guards shoved them out into the rainy night and slammed the heavy oak door. The sound echoed through the house, a finality that felt like a guillotine dropping. Silence returned. The party was ruined. The gold balloons looked tacky now. The cake uncut. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, trembling not from fear, but from the massive adrenaline dump leaving my body. My mother wrapped me in a hug. It's over, she whispered. You did it. I'm sorry, I said to the guests, my voice shaking slightly. No cake cutting tonight. Please take the food home. And thank you for coming to the show. Then, something amazing happened. Mrs. Abernathy, the head of the charity board and the biggest gossip in town, started clapping. Slow, steady applause. My cousin joined. Then Richard's former business partner. Soon, the whole room was applauding. Not for the drama. For me. For the woman who refused to be a victim. I let out a sob, a laugh mixed with tears. Outside, the drama wasn't over. Flashing lights. My father had called the police, not for the fraud, that would come later, but for trespassing and disturbing the peace, just to add to the humiliation. I watched through the sheer curtains. Richard arguing with an officer, Monica sitting on the curb, gold dress soaked, crying. They were turning on each other. I could see Richard screaming at her. The love he spoke of on the phone had evaporated the second the money disappeared. That night, I slept in the guest room. I couldn't bear to sleep in the bed Richard had lied in. But for the first time in months, I slept without nightmares. The monster wasn't under the bed anymore. He was out in the cold where he belonged. The next morning, the real work began. Sterling arrived at 8 a.m. with a briefcase full of subpoenas. We have the video, he said, laying out the files on the kitchen table. We have the signed guarantee. We have the DNA. We have the forensic accounting of the $280,000 he stole. What's the first step? We freeze his personal accounts, Sterling said. Then we filed the divorce petition citing adultery. Then your father files the lawsuit for the debt. We hit him from 3 sides at once. He won't be able to breathe. Good, I said. Suffocate him. And Monica? I asked. A co-conspirator, Sterling said. We can sue her for the return of the stolen funds, the jewelry, the medical bills, the rent. Garnish her wages for the next 20 years. Do it, I said. I want every penny back. Not because I need the money, but because she needs to learn that nothing in life is free. The divorce proceedings were less of a battle and more of an execution. Richard hired a high-profile lawyer, but once the lawyer saw the Project Green contract and the personal guarantee for $10 million, he dropped Richard faster than a hot potato. Richard ended up with a strip mall attorney who looked like he slept in his car. 3 weeks later, we met for mediation. Richard looked terrible. Lost weight, gray skin, an unpressed suit. He was living in a motel. He tried to make eye contact, to give me that sad puppy dog look that used to work. I looked right through him. My client, Sterling began, is offering nothing. Richard's lawyer sighed. Look, Mr. Vance is destitute. The debt to Vance Reynolds Capital is crushing him. He can't pay it. He's filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Bankruptcy won't clear debt incurred through fraud, Sterling said cheerfully. We have evidence he signed that guarantee under false pretenses to embezzle from a fund. That's non-dischargeable. Richard slammed his hand on the table. I didn't embezzle anything. I never got the money. Because we stopped you, my father said from the corner. Attempted grand larceny is still a crime, Richard. Richard slumped back. What do you want? He whispered. We want you to sign the divorce papers uncontested, Sterling said. You walk away with your personal effects. No claim on the house, no claim on retirement, no spousal support. And you agree to a repayment plan for the $280,000 you stole. I can't pay that. Richard cried. I have a baby coming. Not my problem, I said. It was the first time I'd spoken. He looked at me with hatred. You're heartless, Laura. A cold, heartless bitch. I learned from the best, I replied calmly. He signed. He had no choice. If he fought us, we'd press criminal charges for fraud and wiretapping. He left with a suitcase of clothes and a debt that would follow him forever. The bankruptcy court took his car, his watch collection, even the golf clubs I'd given him. I hired a crew to strip the house, replaced the mattress, repainted the walls, burned the sheets. Every trace of his DNA scrubbed from my sanctuary. One afternoon, my phone rang. Laura. It was Monica. Her voice small, broken. I need help. Richard left. He said he can't afford the baby. He said it's my fault he's broke. I'm due in 3 weeks, Laura. I have nowhere to go. My parents won't take me back. That sounds terrible, I said. Please, she begged. I know I messed up, but this is an innocent baby. Can you help me? Or maybe I could stay in the guest house again. The audacity was breathtaking. She thought she could play on my sympathy one last time. Monica, I said, my voice hard as steel. You didn't just mess up. You plotted to destroy me. You mocked my infertility while carrying a child you planned to raise on my money. You aren't a friend. You're a predator who got caught. But the baby? There are plenty of adoption agencies and women's shelters, I said. I suggest you call one. Do not call me again. If you do, I'll file a restraining order. I hung up and blocked the number. I stood in my empty hallway, listening to the silence. It wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. Karma, it turns out, is a patient artist. She paints with slow, deliberate strokes. I didn't seek news of Monica, but gossip travels faster than light. 3 weeks after her desperate call, I heard she'd gone into labor. Not the royal birth she'd envisioned. She delivered at the county hospital alone. Richard didn't show. He was dodging process servers for another debt, living out of his car. The baby was a healthy boy. The son Richard had so desperately wanted to secure his legacy. But a legacy requires assets, and Richard had none. Monica couldn't afford the condo. Evicted. She moved back to her parents' basement in rural Ohio, the fate she'd mocked me for avoiding. She tried to sue Richard for child support. You can't squeeze blood from a stone. The court ordered Richard to pay $200 a month from his minimum wage job at a hardware store. $200. That wouldn't even cover the diapers she used to buy with my credit card. Her career? Dead. The video from the party had circulated quietly. No reputable charity would hire her. She worked as a waitress at a diner, selling her Chanel clothes on eBay for formula. Richard wasn't doing much better. My father's lawyers garnished his wages, 25% of every paycheck. He tried to contact me once, a letter. Laura, I'm changing. I'm going to church. I realize money isn't everything. I miss our talks. I burned it. He didn't miss our talks. He missed the lifestyle I provided. One rainy Tuesday a year later, I was at a red light. I saw a man walking, hunched, without an umbrella, in a cheap jacket. Richard. 10 years older, hair thinning, the arrogant strut replaced by a defeated shuffle. Waiting for the bus. The Richard the first knew wouldn't be caught dead on a bus. The light turned green. I didn't honk. Didn't roll down the window to shout an insult. I just pressed the accelerator of my Mercedes and drove past him. He didn't see me. He was too busy looking at his shoes. That was the moment I knew I had truly won. Not because he was miserable, but because I felt absolutely nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just indifference. He was a stranger, a cautionary tale in a wet jacket. Monica? I checked her Facebook profile once, a moment of weakness. A stream of complaints. So tired. Why don't men step up? Need a babysitter who works cheap. Photos of the baby. He looked like Richard. Poor kid. I hoped he'd be better than his parents. I closed the laptop. Their story was over. Footnotes. Ugly, messy footnotes in the chapter before my real life began. They say the best revenge is living well. But I think the best revenge is rediscovering who you were before the vampires drained you. I sold the house. Too big for one person. No dark corners for secrets to hide. I bought a modern, glass-walled house overlooking the Sound. Full of light. Clean lines. I started a new foundation, the Phoenix Fund, a little inside joke, focusing on financial literacy for women. My parents were my rock. My father, the tough businessman, softened. We spent weekends gardening. He never said, "I told you so." Just, "I'm proud of you." The dried-up womb comment? I went to therapy. A lot of therapy. I unpacked the shame. I realized my value wasn't in my uterus. I had so much love to give. I became a court-appointed special advocate for children in the foster system. One afternoon at a fundraiser, a man approached me. Older, distinguished, kind eyes. "Laura Reynolds," he asked. "I'm David. I've heard a lot about your work." We talked about books, the ocean. He didn't scan the room for someone more important. He looked at me. He didn't know about my money. Or the scandal. He just saw a woman in a red dress who spoke with passion. "Would you like to get coffee sometime?" he asked. My instinct, the one Richard had instilled, was to say no. To protect myself. To assume everyone wanted something. But the woman who drove past Richard at the bus stop? She wasn't afraid anymore. "I'd love to," I said. We took it slow. No grand gestures, no love bombing. Just quiet dinners, long walks. He had his own life, a career as a pediatrician. He didn't need my money. He insisted on splitting the bill. 6 months later, on my deck, watching the sunset, David said, "You seem happy." I am, I realized. I really am. 2 years ago, I was sitting in a car, listening to my life implode. I thought it was the end of the world. But it wasn't the end. It was a forest fire. It burned everything down. The dead wood, the weeds, the rot. And in the ashes, something new grew. Something stronger. I wasn't a barren wife. Or a cash cow. I was Laura. And Laura was doing just fine. It's been 2 years since the gender reveal party from hell. It's a local legend. The night the Reynolds heiress dropped the mic. I wear it like a badge of honor. Richard's probation for wiretapping is over, but he's paying off that debt until he's 90. I donate every garnished check to a charity for single mothers. I think the irony would kill him. Monica is still in Ohio. Married a guy from the diner. I hope he treats her better. I hope she treats him better. I don't wish her harm anymore. Her life is small. For someone who craved grandeur, that's punishment enough. As for me, I'm sitting on the beach, recording this. David is by the water, teaching a little boy how to skip stones. That little boy is Leo. He's 5. I didn't give birth to him. I met him through my advocacy work. He'd been bounced around 3 foster homes. His eyes were sad, just like mine were after the divorce. I fostered him. Last month, the adoption was finalized. Richard was right about one thing: I couldn't give him a son. But he was wrong about everything else. I didn't need to give birth to be a mother. I needed to open my heart. Leo looks up at David and laughs. A pure, unburdened sound. My heart swells so big I think it might burst. This is the family I was fighting for. It didn't look the way I thought it would. It wasn't built on genetics or legacy or $10 million trust funds. It was built on showing up. It was built on trust. I pick up a stone, rub it with my thumb. Smooth. Worn down by the ocean. Just like me. If you're listening to this and you feel trapped, if you're sitting in your car suspecting the worst, or lying in bed next to a stranger who used to be your husband, know this. The explosion isn't the end. The explosion is the exit door. Walk through it. Let it burn. Let the truth destroy the lie you've been living in. It will hurt. God, it will hurt. You will feel like you're dying. But you aren't dying. You are waking up. And on the other side, the air is clean. The light is real. And you're free. Thank you for listening to my story. Now tell me, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to choose between letting go and fighting for your truth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to know.